By the end of this video, you will be healing like this. We're going to begin with the basic of the basics. Every single healer should have Mouseover heals. A Mouseover heal is when you click on a portrait or a raid frame. My raid frames are usually right here. When you click on the actual portrait with whichever button, it should use a specific heal for that button. So if I left click on my portrait, I use Flash of Light. If I right click, I use Holy Lights. The way that's done is my add-on click. All of these spells are bound to these buttons that you see here. So if I want to cast Beacon of Light, I'll use the middle button, and that will cast Beacon of Light on me. I press one button, and it throws that on that target that my mouse is over. Every healer needs to do this. It's the fastest way to heal. If you're clicking on a portrait and then clicking on your action bar button, meaning 1, 2, 3, whatever, you're doing it wrong. So let me show you really quick how to set this up. There are multiple different add-ons you can get. You can even write macros for this, but the easiest, simplest way that I can explain it is the add-on click, CLIQUE. You download it, you install it, and you'll get this extra tab right here. Click on the tab, just right click and delete these. You don't need them, and that's pretty much it. You go to your holy spell tree or tab, and let's say I want my Flash of Light bound to my left mouse button. I will click Flash of Light with my left mouse button, and it will assign it to my left mouse button. Same thing with Holy Light, but I'll use the right button this time. Now whenever I cast or click with Flash of Light, Holy Light, it'll use those buttons. It's that simple. The UI is the next thing we're going to talk about. Everything you see on this screen can be moved, and just to show you what I mean, give you an example, I can move the player portrait wherever the hell I want to move it. You can do this with everything on your screen, your map, your debuffs, buffs, whatever. The only thing you cannot move is your character. So since you have to keep an eye on your character to make sure you're not standing in fire or anything like that, you need everything around your character. It makes no sense to have your raid frames up here and you're healing, throwing out heals, and then boom, you could be standing in fire, but your eyes are up here. So you won't know it until you get a warning. And if you want to look at your cooldown to see if you can use a spell, for example, your eyes come down here, which takes it off of your raid frames and takes it off of your character. This is a no-no. You want everything around your character. My raid frames are usually right here. So when I'm healing, yada yada yada, I can see my character if I'm standing in flames or whatever. Even my buffs and debuffs, I can see everything. Oh, look at that. Greatness Trinket proc, so I'll use Divine Plea. So I never really have to look down here at my cooldowns. My eyes will always be right here. Even my Beacon of Light and Sacred Shield. They're all right here, so I know what's what, and I'm ready for anything. The next thing we speak about is information. Information about the boss fight is going to save your life. You cannot heal if you're dead, so just remember that. In this next clip, I'm going to show you how knowing what's coming up helped me tremendously. So check this out right here.
Stop casting.
Right there. Stop casting. That told me that if I cast, I'll be silenced. And here it goes again.
Stop casting.
That lets me know when to cast and when not to cast for this particular boss fight. That add-on was called DBM. It's an information add-on. It gives you information that you need. Another thing you have to work on is the debuffs and bars and all the spells coming out. This is going to show the boss's spells coming. When it's almost time for it to go off, it goes over here to the middle. The reason why I put it here is what I told you earlier. Everything has to be in the center, so I know what's coming. This is a good warning to let you know what's coming up so you can better prepare for it. This is a range. If you're within 10 yards range, it'll show them where they're at, so it's really good for Kel'Thuzad.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Fear incoming.
Four, three, two, one.
Defensive.
Be sure to get the add-on. It gives very good information. This will be the last add-on that I actually cover. If you're wondering about Beacon of Light and my Sacred Shield, what they are, as you can see, it tracks it. This is knowledge about ourselves, what we do, not what the boss does. What I use for this is WeakAuras. WeakAuras, basically, you can put any kind of icon, spell, image, anything on your screen when something comes up. So first thing first, these are all my auras that I have. I have lots of them. Ignore all these. When you make your own, you'll get them the same as me right here. Ignore everything you see here. The only two things you need is pre-made auras and icon. Pre-made auras is basically, it's all, the code is already written for you. You're just taking a copy of it and you're adding it. It's already done for you. Icon is basically start from scratch. I'm going to go over one really quick so you can see how it works. Let me get rid of this. I'm going to go with a pre-made aura. I don't like using all these texture models, text. I like using the original icon because when you look at your action bar, you're going to know what spell it is based on the appearance of it, not by what it says. So let's track a ability. You can track a buff, you can track debuffs, track your mana so when it gets low it tells you, whatever. Let's make one for Avenging Wrath. I'll click it. It says only show the aura when the ability is on cooldown. No. Only show the aura when the ability is... Yes, that's the one we want to use. So it makes it for you. Everything's already made for you. And there it goes right here. We're going to put it right there. There's only 3 tabs you need to worry about. Don't worry about these 3. You're almost never going to use them. This is for more advanced shit. The 3 you're going to worry about is these 2 right here and then the load. The load, really quick, it just shows you when you want it to show. Would you like it to show in combat, when you're alive, blah, blah, blah. This aura, I want it to only show when I'm in combat, so I'm going to select that. The display settings, it basically says where you want it at, the size you want it, how big, how small. That's basically what display tab does. That's what all of this is for. You can even give it a glow effect if you want. But that's what this tab is for. The trigger tag, this tab is the most important. This is the actual code, basically. When you write a computer code and you write the numbers in, this is what trigger is, the actual code. So we want to track, oh, that's not right. We want to track Avenging Wrath when it's usable. And since it's already made, we're pretty much done. So when I enter combat and it's ready to be used, it'll pop up right there. So I'll use it, and as you can see, it's gone. Now when it comes off cooldown, it'll pop up on my screen again. That's how you make an aura. And as you can see, this bar right here is called Sexy Cooldowns, the add-on. So it'll show you, it starts at 3 minutes. You can edit it as much as you want to start at 10 minutes, whatever. So once it gets closer and closer, this is 30 seconds, 10 seconds, 1 second, it'll let me know that it's off cooldown. So if I don't see it on this bar, that means I can use it. This next part, I'm going to explain how important the raid frames are. The raid frames tell you pretty much everything you need to know. Almost everything you need to know. Now, I use enhanced raid frames for my frames. As you can see right here, the bar turned red. When that happens, it tells me that that person has aggro on whatever monsters. Doesn't matter if it's 1 monster or 10 monsters. He has aggro and they are attacking him. As you can see, the warriors just turned red. He is the DPS. The DK is the tank. So I'm going to start pre-healing the warrior because he has aggro and he's about to take some damage. As you can see now, it turned yellow. That means his aggro is high, but he does not have aggro. Now it turned red. So I got tired of that, and I just used salvation on him right here, as you can see, so it can drop his threat. And unfortunately, you see the DK now. He's getting aggro, and he's not really losing threat, so his DPS is pretty high, as you can see. There is the term ABC, always be casting. It came from a movie, I forgot the name, where they said ABC, always be closing when they're selling, what the fuck's it called? Stock and whatnot. But ABC means always be casting. Even if these guys are full on health, if everyone is full on health, I'm still going to cast Flash of Light because the tank may still take damage. And it's better to pre-heal and get him healed up to full right as he takes the damage than standing around not healing. So always be casting, even if it's your weakest spell, which it should be. It should be your most efficient spell. It's always good to have macros that will lessen up the burden of being overwhelmed from the spells on your action bar. For example, I have a macro, Divine Plea. I use the Divine Plea and the Figurine Owl, which is this right here, to recharge my mana. So when I use it, I have it bound to Shift 1. So when I hold Shift and press 1, it will use both of them at the same time. If I'm in combat, it'll show both of them. Also, as you can see, my greatness just procced. Always use your cooldowns in sync with other cooldowns, internal cooldowns. If you have a haste trinket, which gives 500 haste for so and so seconds, use a cooldown with that. Use a potion of speed to double that haste even more. So that is the best time to use trinkets, use cooldowns, things like that. Get the most out of them. I also have Avenging Wrath for Shift 3. I don't always do this. Sometimes I do click on these. I can't make a macro for Divine Sacrifice and Divine Shield. It doesn't work. I don't know why, but maybe you guys would know. But keybind everything if you can to save yourself some time from coming down and clicking them manually. You may have to slow down the mouse when you get close to it and then click it. That's going to take away time from doing all that. So while you're healing, you can just hold shift and press them. It will not, holding shift cancels out click. So it will not use a spell, it will use your action bar. The last thing I'll speak about in this video is your own spells. Know what's best for situational fights, for example, patchwork. Know what's best to use in those situations. When patchwork gets to, I think it's 10%, he goes into a frenzy and hits like a motherfucker. So usually people, tanks will pop their cooldowns and heals will just heal harder. The best thing to do for situations like that is use your cooldowns. I will Divine Shield, use Hand of Sacrifice. I can't do it on myself obviously, but I have it for my number 8 key. And use Divine Sacrifice for additional reduction of damage. So if they are in my group, they would take 50% less damage if I use Divine Shield and then use this. If I add this on top of it, that's another 30%. Now, if I don't have Divine Shield, I would not use this on Patchwork. But 80% reduction of damage for a few seconds on Patchwork, plus the tank's cooldowns, would make Patchwork hit for a wet noodle on whoever has my cooldowns on them. Use all your abilities to the max. Don't neglect your abilities. Use your salvation on people with high aggro. It'll save you heals, it'll save you mana. So just remember, use all your spells if you can. Even your Hand of Protection, use it. I almost never use this on melee. I only use it for spellcasters because you don't want to put this on a melee person and then they can't do anything. That'll kind of suck. So just be smart with your spells. Even Hand of Salvation, Cleanse, everything. Use all your spells and have them all at the ready. This last part of the video, I'm going to implement everything that I told you so far into this raid that I'm healing. This is Malagos Tin Man. I'm solo healing it. It's not a hard fight, so it's not hard to heal it. We got a little confused at the beginning on who's tanking, the Paladin or the Druid. The Druid usually tanks, but you know, he's going cat form this time. So as you can see, I'm already healing. Even before the tank takes damage, I'm healing. Always be casting. Never stop healing, because it's going to keep healing the tank as well. Keep casting, don't stop. As you can see right here, I am at about 75% mana, as you can see, 80%-ish, and I use my Divine Plea cooldown. You don't have to use this, but I want to use Divine Plea as many times as I can in a fight. So when you get to about 80%, 75%, go ahead and use the Divine Plea. That way it can come up again, and then you can use it again, and again, and again, and keep getting more and more mana from it. So it's a 60-second cooldown. Use it as much as you can. Get the most out of it. This next part right here is where knowledge of the fight comes into play. As a paladin, we cannot heal in the vortex. The best way to negate this is to Divine Shield. This will negate his vortex damage to me and will allow me to keep healing. I'm not a druid, so I can't just keep popping off insta heals. So remember, knowing what to do in the fight is very important. I kind of get scared right here because I have to get these heals off, and then he's facing me, so it kind of scared me a little bit. Always be casting, remember that. And my Divine Plea is about 30 seconds away from being, for me to use it again. And I'm back at 75% mana. So use your cooldowns smart, get the most out of them. Since they heroed right here, it'll be a good time to use Divine Plea. As you can see, I just used it. And look at that, Greatness Trinket proc. So I am getting the maximum amount of mana back from that. I beaconed myself for phase 2 because knowing what happens next is very important. The ads are going to come down, but there's not a lot of them on Tin Man. So it'll be a while before our Paladin tank picks them up. But I'm probably going to get aggro because I'm healing everybody. So I'd rather keep healing people, and then let that heal myself so I can stay alive. So once the tank picks up the ads, then I'll beacon him and we'll see what happens next. As you can see, I just beaconed him. So now I can start healing normally and he'll get the heals. Always be casting. Even if there's no damage going out, always be casting. It's hard for us paladins to heal and move. We're not druids, we can't just keep popping off insta spells. So save your moving time for when you have Holy Shock ready. That way when you do move, you can cast Holy Shock and you can keep healing while you move. As you can see right there, I'm mass clicking on my spells. Mass click your spells. That's the fastest way to heal. Constantly press your buttons continuously. That pretty much sums up our video, guys. I will probably make a second one going over talents, glyphs, and all the typical things that everyone else makes. And I'll even go more in depth with the add-ons, the WeakAuras, how I get all my auras tracked. Beacon of Light, for example. I know some of you want to know how I do that one as well. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.